Hey, Matt from Hidden Machine here again with another Roundup video. In case you don't know, these are the videos where I kind of just do a quick roundup of all the games I've been playing lately. I'm always looking for new suggestions on stuff to check out, so please, if you would, leave a comment down below and let me know what you're playing lately. I'd love to talk about games with you. I love talking about games, if it isn't clear from the channel. And speaking of the channel, I want to take a moment to thank all of our supporters over on Patreon. You are helping us out more than you could ever know. If you're in a position to help the channel grow, check out the link down below. All right, I'm gonna start rapping if I don't stop rhyming. So let's get into the video with the very first game I wanna cover today. It's Laika, Aged Through Blood. This is one of the standout games that I played during the most recent Steam Next Fest. The game doesn't have a release date just yet, but there is a demo available, which is what I'll be talking about here today. To put it very simply, it's like a Western Excitebike Metroidvania with bullet time. It's also a very dark and violent game, which is something that you'll learn immediately upon starting this demo. You get a concerned call from your child, letting you know that someone close to you was crucified with their own intestines. You take on the role of Laika, a coyote warrior who is engaged in a war with a rival group of birds. You live in a small village with these other animals, and you've discovered that the rival birds have started to build these war machines and lash out against your people. The game has an incredible presentation with a very distinct animation style and a really strong soundtrack. The gameplay took me a little while to get used to, but eventually I did get the hang of it. You use the left analog stick to tilt your bike and the right stick to aim your weapon. In my experience, there's a huge emphasis on timing in this game. You have a sort of parry that allows you to deflect shots, and you have to do a front flip in order to recharge it. Doing a back flip will reload your gun. You can only take one hit to your body, but you can use your bike to block bullets. It's got a really unique feel that I can't really directly compare to anything else. The bullet time combat mixed with the ability to rotate in midair just feels really cool, and I'm super excited to see how the game will feel with different weapons and upgrade combinations. The demo isn't super long, but it revealed a lot more than I expected it to. As you ride around, you can collect different resources that are used for crafting different weapons and upgrades. There's a bunch of different NPCs and merchants to encounter, and you'll receive quests along the way. In my opinion, the writing is really strong, and it immediately connected with me on an emotional level. I could go on, but I don't want to just give a play-by-play of everything that happens in the demo. I really think that this is a game that you just gotta try for yourself to understand. The movement and combat have this really distinct feel that I don't think I can do justice in this video. At the time of making this video, the demo is still available on Steam, and the game is set to come to Switch, the Xboxes, and the PlayStations at some point this year. Another demo that I played recently is Blue June, which feels like a blend of old school survival horror and old school adventure games. This one showed up on my timeline over on Twitter, and I was intrigued by the flashlight mechanic that was inspired by Alan Wake. And if you don't know, Alan Wake is one of my all-time favorite games, and it's probably the main reason that we have any subscribers on this channel at all. That flashlight mechanic doesn't appear in this demo, but there's still some really good ideas here. In the game, you play as a college student named June, who enters these bizarre dream realms where she has to solve puzzles and avoid monsters. The whole demo is only about 15 minutes long, and the game is probably still very early on in development, but there's some great stuff here, and I'm excited to see the game develop more. The sound design is really strong, and it feels like there's a lot of potential for the dream sequences to do some very entertaining stuff. The game is being worked on by a solo developer named BB, who's based in Toronto, Canada. I would suggest keeping an eye on this game. Heading over to a game that I recently started through Game Pass, Need for Speed Unbound is a really solid racing game that sort of reminds me of playing the old cruising games on the N64 way back in the day. The controls are really simple, and it's a lot more forgiving than some other more realistic racing games that I've tried to play over the years. The whole game has a sort of hip-hop aesthetic with the soundtrack, graffiti, the characters, and just the overall presentation. There's a narrative here. You're making your way through the ranks of the local street racing game. You can buy into races to raise money to improve or customize your car. Or if you're broke, you can do some free races for less money. These are all illegal street races, and throughout them, you'll be tailed by the police. You have a heat meter similar to like a wanted meter in GTA, and you'll have to lose the cops if you want to avoid getting busted. Cops will follow you during the races, but there's also this big open world map that you'll do a lot of driving in, and you'll have to look out for the cops there as well. Races can be pretty quick, which is nice because sometimes I just want to drop into a game for 20 or 30 minutes, and with this game, you can do that and still make some significant progress. This is from the same studio that made the Burnout games, and they've been developing Need for Speed games for a while now. I'm not really big into racing games, but I'm having a lot of fun with this one. Next, we have Halls of Torment. This is basically a take on the Vampire Survivors formula, which in itself is a game that was heavily inspired by an Android title called Magic Survival. This game takes the aesthetics of Diablo and applies them to a reverse bullet hell game, complete with quests, NPCs, a bunch of different character classes, and a lot of gear to find that will modify your heroes. Like Vampire Survivors, this game presents 30-minute long rounds, but unlike Vampire Survivors, at the end of 30 minutes, you enter a boss fight, which could easily take another 5 to 10 minutes or more to get through. I've had this game for just about a month now, and I've already put in over 24 hours. I'm crazy about it. There's a free demo available, which I highly recommend. The game is in early access, and it currently only has 3 stages. But even in its limited state, there are a ton of quests and achievements to go after, and I'm pretty close to maxing out everything available at this time. You can toggle auto-aim and auto-firing on and off. I play with a gamepad, and I found that manual aiming doesn't quite work right for me. I've seen a few other people online experiencing the same issue. It works totally fine with keyboard and mouse, but the gamepad twin-stick thing just wasn't working. However, auto-aim works just fine, and I have to assume that this is an issue that will eventually be addressed. If you got hooked on Vampire Survivors last year, you're probably gonna love this game. Whisker Squadron Survivor is another demo. This game enters early access on August 21st, 2023. It's roguelite Star Fox. Whisker Squadron is another game that employs the 30-minute rounds, and honestly, I love it. I wasn't quite sold at first because I didn't realize that it was a roguelite. I was expecting something more like Star Fox with a traditional level structure. But after running through a few rounds, I found myself fully committed to buying into the early access version of the game. The gameplay is very similar to Star Fox 64, but with a few changes. You have an automatically replenishing energy meter, which is used up whenever you fire your main weapon or use your boost. But that meter can be upgraded, as can pretty much all of your basic stats. There's a lock on here as well, but it's reserved for missiles. I didn't get around to unlocking very much, and the demo is pretty bare bones in contrast to how much stuff can be unlocked in the paid version of the game. But even still, I had a great time with this one, and I cannot wait to see what else it has to offer. Lastly, I want to give a shout out to Endlight. This is a game which had a demo that I covered in a previous video, but since then, the full game has launched on Steam. It's really unique, and I struggle to really talk about it in any sort of meaningful way. But if this at all looks interesting to you, I think you gotta give it a shot. It's creative, funny, very engaging, and it's surprisingly relaxing for how chaotic it can be. I don't really know how to categorize this one. It's kind of like Rez or like Star Fox 64, but it's just so unique. It's really in a class of its own. You just gotta play it. And that's it for this edition of the Roundup. Again, leave a comment, let me know what you're playing. I'm always looking to check out new games, and if you want to talk games some more, meet me in the Hidden Machine Discord. There's a link in the description, and we are almost at 3,000 subs right now. So if you haven't yet, subscribe to Hidden Machine, help us cross that line, and until next time, see ya!